What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Crush City Territory. I'm Chandler Rome, and Tyler Stafford is still in Cancun, where I think we all wish we could be. So, in his stead, I've found another co-host for today, Sam Niedorf, the Astros farm director. Sam, you're becoming a recurring guest here. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we appreciate you taking some time in the midst of your busy schedule to tell us about the baby Astros.
Absolutely, Chandler. Thanks for having me on again.
All right, so we're reaching the midway point. Some teams or some minor league teams are finishing their first halves. Others are quickly approaching that point. Before we get into players, and we'll get into a bunch of specific guys that I know fans have a lot of questions about. Through the first, month and a half, 2 months, as you look up and down the org, as you look up and down the affiliates, is there one or a couple maybe through lines that excite you, just about the production, just about maybe some traits, some consistent themes you're seeing kind of up and down the org as you've started to implement maybe some of your processes and some of your thoughts as to where this thing can kind of how you wanted to mold this system kind of in your image?
Yeah, I think a few stand out. The first one is the base running. That was a really big emphasis for our group, AAA down, really starting in spring training and just emphasizing how we want to play the game of baseball, our brand of baseball, the style of play we want to bring to the opponent. I think as we sit here right now on June 22nd, we lead all of minor league baseball in stolen bases, which is something I think collectively we're really proud of. Emphasizing the two base advancements, the first to third, the second to homes. Again, really bringing our game of baseball to the opponent has been a talking point ever since spring, and really proud of how that's carried through. I think additionally is just the positional versatility that we've tried to create with players in the system. Guys playing multiple spots on the diamond. Caden Powell, for example, making the transition from infield to outfield this year. Kyle Walker playing both short and third. There's a myriad of different examples of guys who have played two or three spots that they previously hadn't. And I think ultimately we don't know where these guys are going to end up at the end of the day at the major league level. And it's our job to equip them with as many tools in the tool belt to be as versatile as they can and help Joe and the staff wherever they might see a fit.
When you mention base running, I think everyone equates that to you got to have fast guys to be a good base running or to be a good base runner, but that's not really necessarily the case. Like you don't have to be a burner to be a good base runner. I guess how does that implement itself when you're telling a prospect that maybe doesn't have 80 or 70 speed that you can go first to third? Is it more about just reading balls off the bat? Is it more about knowing when to pick up a third base coach? Kind of take us through that balance of maybe not being a fast guy, but you can be a good base runner without having a ton of speed.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think we try to change that narrative early. The guys who are, plus runners, they're going to get their 30, 40 bags. We really try to center on the fringiest runners who might not have had a history of stealing bases. And a lot of that starts with the advanced process pregame. Nick Ortiz did a phenomenal job, our base running coordinator, of developing a opposing pitcher advance that all of our affiliates go through to study the opposing pitcher. What are their times of the plate? What are their tells? What are their pick sequences? Just having that information going into the game has been super helpful for a lot of guys. And again, you don't need to be the fastest guy in the world, but we do ask the preparation piece is a big component of that. And if you're not going to be the plus runner, you have to win in the margins. And we think preparation and knowing who is on the mound and what their tells and traits are is only going to help that process.
Now, that's interesting. So you is that something new that you guys have implemented, like opposing pitcher kind of advance reports? And I mean, that's something that obviously in the big leagues happens, before every series, before every game, but how influential is that? And is that something that's maybe spread, across outside of base running? Have you seen maybe more pregame advance reports on things outside of that?
Yeah, we've tried to streamline it throughout the system. I think there's been bits and pieces of it that have been touched on in previous years. I think the big thing was just trying to put a system in place that's somewhat uniform, AAA down, so our players are seeing the same information as they go up and down levels. Again, the base running one was a big component. The hitting group has had an advanced report in place before that has been successful, but as we talked about the emphasis of base running and how we want to run the bases, it was important for us and myself to make sure we're arming our players with all the information needed for them to be the most effective base runners as they can.
As you look at maybe the offense up and down the system, how where are you at just in terms of maybe and knowing that every player is different, knowing every team is different, the composition of every offensive profile is different. In general, just maybe the swing decisions, the contact rate, and kind of where you guys are in terms of moving the baseball forward, and maybe power versus hit, kind of where do you think the system is in terms of offensive approach totally?
Yeah, in terms of the full system wide approach, we kind of take an individual approach to that. Is there's going to be some guys, I'm sure we'll talk about Jason Schiavone, who does a ton of damage, doesn't make a ton of contact. There's guys like Lucas Spence, who makes a ton of contact and has kind of fringish damage. So there's not a wholesale approach that we sell out to. It's really understanding what each individual possesses as a strength, and trying to protect those strengths and trying to protect what they do well, while also adhering to what those opportunities and deficiencies are, and doing our best to create a plan that tries to solve for some of those deficiencies. If it's contact, taking an approach of potentially changing the swing or his tilt or loft. If it's a guy who struggles to do damage, it's getting the ball more out front, or maybe adding a little bit more steepness to the swing. It's really on an individual level. So in terms of what the blanketed approach is, there really isn't one. We believe in swing decisions. We believe in contact. We believe in damage, but it's really understanding where the individual is and meeting him as to where he is in his career.
Well, since you mentioned Jason Schiavone, a fellow friend of the pod, we had him on a couple of weeks ago after you guys made him drive 20 hours from Asheville to Corpus for his Double-A debut, and he really has not slowed down in Double-A. The home runs are not the power has diminished a little bit, but I mean he's still got a 400 on base percentage at Double-A, still has an 800 OPS. As of this recording, has a 1057 OPS between high A and Double-A, has hit 22 home runs between those levels. I'll be honest with you, Sam, I didn't really know who Jason was, even coming out of camp. He's a guy that really kind of has broken out in a lot of ways this year. Did you guys expect this, and how real is this?
To say we expected this would be a lie. I think we all had high expectations for Jason coming into the year. I think we saw some of the underlying traits that he possessed last year and in previous years, with just the damage output stands out. His ability to draw walks and get on base is attractive. This has been a coming out party for him, and he deserves all the credit. He showed up early in January and committed himself to staying in West Palm all January and obviously all through spring training, February, March, and really committed himself to the plan that we laid out for him early. But yeah, to your last question, it is real. We're a believer of Jason internally, and I think he's proven that to the rest of the league this year with his performance.
Defensively, obviously he's getting some run at first base in Double-A, and I mean I presume it's because you guys want his bat in the lineup every day. You want the bat hitting third or fourth in the hooks lineup every day. But where do you see him long-term defensively? Is this a future catcher every day, or is this a guy that can vacillate between behind the plate, first base, or is that something you guys are still trying to figure out right now?
No, we see him as a true catcher. His ability to catch and throw, his ability to call a game, and really more importantly, just the importance he places on the pitcher-catcher relationship and how he goes about preparing for a game. All of those traits and intangibles lead us to have a lot of confidence in him staying at the position down the road. It's a good problem to have for us there in Double-A, with the Will Bushes, the Garrett Gilmets, the Walker Yaniks, and then Jason himself. We've got a plethora of catching there, which makes it a fun challenge for us to figure out who's going to play and how much time they get. But Jason has cemented himself in our mind as a true catcher moving forward.
Speaking of, since you mentioned Walker, I know Walker's been dealing with some injuries early this season. Kind of where is he in his rehab, and do you guys envision him being full strength in the next couple of weeks, ready to get back to Double-A?
Yeah, Walker's doing well. He's out in West Palm right now at our complex, coming back from a little hamstring injury. all signs have pointed to him, returning to a game progression here in the next week. We'll get him some games down in West Palm and then look to send him out to an affiliate thereafter. So he's been great. He's been working. We've been working on some swing adjustments with him as well down in West Palm. So all signs are pointing to a positive outcome here in the next couple of weeks, returning to games.
Since we're on the AA batteries, let's talk about Bryce Mayer, who, as of this recording, has a 4.46 ERA in AA, which I think is a little misleading, the number. I mean, he's punching out 14 guys per 9 innings, which is pretty good. What have you made of Bryce Mayer's beginning to his season? And he's a guy that Dana has been high on since spring training. You've heard Dana mention him a lot in conversations, and he's gone out, at least judging by the box scores, judging by the stats, has really lived up to expectations. Maybe what's kind of the next step for him, the next thing you guys want him to cross off before maybe you're looking at, maybe a promotion?
Yeah, Bryce has had a phenomenal season. It's a true starting pitcher prospect with multiple options to both-handed hitters. The real development opportunity with Bryce is just bringing down the walks right now. That's our main focus with him, is getting ahead in the count early, getting the 2 strikes as quick as possible. He has plenty of options, again, to put both bad sides away. It's just getting to those advantage counts is really what we want to see him attack over the next couple of weeks. We know if he can do that, the sky's the limit, and the rest will take care of itself. But really just lowering the walk rate and getting ahead in count is his main development focus right now.
Yeah, he's walking almost 6 guys per 9 innings, which is not what you guys want to see. But I think a 3.24 BABIP against him would suggest that the contact he is allowing he's probably the benefactor of some poor batted ball luck, which is always good. But we will talk about some of the younger kids. We'll get to the Fayetteville Woodpeckers right after this message from our friends at Foul Territory.
When my puppy Bella has something wrong, I'm not going to go around Googling what to do.
Yeah, Kratz, let's have a better plan. Today's episode is sponsored by the ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program. It offers customizable accident and illness plans that can fit your budget, your lifestyle, and even your pet's particular quirks. Because let's be honest, vet bills can add up fast. ASPCA Pet Health Insurance has been around for almost 30 years and has covered over 1 million pets. And when it's time to submit a claim, it's easy. Just use their app and receive reimbursement for eligible vet bills directly into your bank account, so you can get back to focusing on what really matters, your pet. To explore coverage, visit aspcapetinsurance.com/foul. That's aspcapetinsurance.com/foul. Again, that's aspcapetinsurance.com/foul. This is a paid advertisement. Insurance is underwritten by either Independent American Insurance Company or United States Fire Insurance Company and produced by PTZ Insurance Agency Limited. The ASPCA is not an insurer and is not engaged in the business of insurance.
Sam, if I could get out to Fayetteville, if I could buy a plane ticket and get out to Fayetteville, I would love to do that, because you guys, that seems to be the place to be for all the tantalizing young talent that is in this farm system. And I think it starts with the 2 teens that are down there, Xavier Neyens and Kevin Alvarez, who have not performed like their age. They've both had incredible starts to their professional career. This is both of their first taste of affiliated ball this year. I guess before we get into them specifically, just has it impressed you, just as one is 18, one is 19, how they have taken to playing every day, how they've taken to getting themselves in a professional routine, and the results that have come with it?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Chandler. It's been impressive on both accounts with both those players. I think the best part about the past couple of months is there's been some really high highs and some lows, and learning from those lows, and again, how to take care of your body throughout the course of a long season. The proper hydration, nutrition that goes into playing, in Fayetteville during the course of a hot summer. All of those pieces are learning lessons that these guys are learning at 18 and 19 is going to serve them incredibly well for the course of the duration of their career. So we couldn't be happier with how both those guys have performed, the consistency in their performance, and really excited for the second half as they continue to take shape.
You mentioned in the first segment, you've got guys that are playing different positions. We've seen Xavier go between shortstop and third base. I think he's got maybe just about equal reps at both positions. Is this a situation where you guys are just going to kind of test it out and see, or I know there's been discussion that his long-term home is probably third base. Is that something that you guys still see, or how has he looked at shortstop defensively?
Yeah, we're going to let Xavier and his play kind of dictate where that goes. We have given him, reps at both third and short. The majority of it have come at third at this point, but we think internally it's important for him to continue to get runway at shortstop. It's the captain of the infield. How you see the game from the shortstop's point of view, I think will only help him at third base and continue to challenge him with his footwork and athleticism and balls in the 5-6 hole, balls up the middle. Plays that he might not, be making at third base, he's going to be forced to make at shortstop. So we think there's benefit to both, and at the end of the day, where he ends up, he'll tell us with where his play is. But we're comfortable giving him reps at both spots right now.
Obviously, his EVs have been kind of some of the highest in affiliated baseball, just all of affiliated baseball. And this is a guy that's 19 years old. Kind of where do you guys see maybe you've got the contact part down, the hard contact part down, but where would you guys like him? And I guess you can talk about Kevin too, just to be maybe a little more well-rounded offensively, knowing that they are, again, 18 and 19 years old and still trying to discover they're still coming into their own. They're still maturing, as players. Where would you like to see their offensive games maybe take that next step?
I think honestly, it's more from just an advanced standpoint and understanding further how pitchers are going to pitch those two. Kevin and Xavier aren't being pitched like the rest of our lineup is in Fayetteville. Kevin and Xavier, they're being spun earlier, they're being pitched backwards. All of these are new feats for both of these guys. So just understanding how they're being pitched and the tendencies that maybe the pitcher has the rest of the lineup is not what's going to remain true for when they face Kevin and Xavier, and just further understanding of expecting breaking balls early, expecting the 2-0 changeup that you're not anticipating left on left for Kevin. Things of that nature, just a further understanding of you guys are being treated differently for the right reasons you're performing, making sure that we understand that there's a little bit of nuance in what the report might say and how an opposing pitcher might attack them.
Speaking of pitchers that are at Fayetteville, Nick Potter's a guy that I think he hit 100 the other night, can really run it up there. When you see a guy hitting 100 in low A like that, you kind of piques your interest a little bit. Kind of what can you tell us about Nick Potter and kind of how his season has progressed and kind of what you guys see for him in the future?
Yeah, it's an electric arm. The fastball's the calling card. You mentioned the velocity, a really unique profile to it with some carry and some slight cut. Makes it a challenging at bat for any hitter. Nick's currently going through the process of developing a third pitch right now, which we're excited about. Continuing to maintain the consistency of the slider, something we tasked him with. But I think as we've seen a handful of times this year, he has the ability to go through a lineup and dominate it 2 times and 3 times through. Now that his pitch count is fully built up and he's in a spot to hopefully continue to go 5-6 innings and beyond, I think we're going to start to see more of those punch outs rack up like we've seen in the past couple outings. But very encouraged with where he's at and excited for the continued development of the slider and the curveball that he's been working on.
So you guys do think so? He's a star. Like you mentioned, he's developing a third pitch. Like usually, when you hear 2 pitches, that kind of screams reliever. But you guys view him, if he can get the third pitch developed, you guys think this is a starter going forward.
We do, yeah, we do. We think the fastball is a true separator, and at the major league level, having a separator fastball for any starting pitcher is a prerequisite, and Nick possesses that. So yeah, the starter runway is going to be long with him, and we have every belief that he's going to be able to fulfill that.
A little bit closer to the major leagues, probably the 2 guys at AAA that I guess fans and I would look at as maybe being the closest to impacting the major league team that we haven't seen already. Probably Miguel Ullola, who has made the transition from starter to reliever, had another nice outing last night. I believe was up to 98, got 4 outs, which is again, as a former starter, not a big thing for him, but as a reliever, going multiple innings, that's something new for him. So another threshold across. And then Ethan Pecko, who continues to just roll since coming back from his injury. Kind of, I guess first with Ullola, take us through maybe the thought process to move him to the bullpen. And then with Pecko, is it just now a matter of he's back in consistency, he's back into a rhythm after his injury, and this is kind of what you guys expected from him?
Yeah, with Miguel, it came down to, ultimately, where is he going to impact the major league roster first? Is it going to be out of the bullpen? Is it going to be as a starter? I think collectively, we felt it was going to come out of the bullpen. Shortening him down has proved to be really effective. I think outside of the numbers, we've seen an intent and aggressiveness on the mound that we hadn't seen previously. He's been really solid in terms of attacking hitters. The in zone percentage has gone up out of the bullpen, but just the intent and aggressiveness that he's attacked with has been the biggest positive for Miguel. And at the end of the day, when he attacks hitters and gets ahead, we feel really confident in the fastball slider to terminate hitters. And then with Ethan, Ethan obviously got off to a little bit of a slow start building back from the injury in the offseason. And now that he's fully built up, we challenged him with the assignment going back to Sugarland, where he ended last year, and he's really lived up to it. It's been control of 5 pitches and attacking both bat sides, and I think this past start was his best one of the year. Both are knocking on the door. Both are options. We feel confident if the call comes, both those guys can impact the major league roster and in the roles that they're in. So feel good about both Ethan and Miguel as to where they're at right now.
Before we get you out of here, I think we've hit on all the guys that are known, right? The guys that are making the names, guys that you always see the highlights on X, the guys that I think a lot of fans are really excited about. Give me a couple guys that are maybe the Jason Schiavones of this past year, right? The guys that we're not really talking about, the guys that I haven't really heard of, or the guys that maybe the casual fan hasn't heard of that are doing well, that are maybe flying under the radar a little bit, that have some good peripherals or that are making some good production that maybe could break out and be on the radar soon.
Yeah, I'll give you one on the mound first. Jagger Beck is a 19-year-old starting pitcher for us in Fayetteville amongst the group you mentioned earlier. Having a really nice year, punching out 30%, walking less than 7%. Big physical right-handed pitcher, from the 24 draft. Missed some time, last year. Went to Australia to get some innings this past offseason and really came into camp in excellent physical shape. The fastball velocity's ticked up this year. He's a guy we're really excited about at that low A level. And then I'll throw out Justin Thomas, who's a center fielder there in Asheville, University of Arkansas product. And with his ability to get on base via the walk, his ability to impact the bases with his ability to go first to third and then steal second and steal third, and the power output, he's a legitimate center field prospect. So excited about both those guys, but those are 2 names that might have flown under the radar with some of the more prominent names that have been mentioned.
Justin Thomas, not the golfer, right?
Not the golfer.
Not the golfer.
Yeah.
Okay. Just let's get that straight.
Yeah.
Sam, this was great. Really appreciate you taking some time. I know you've got a busy morning, so I'm going to let you go. This was excellent. Thank you again. And I'm sure, given the track record of this podcast, we'll have you on again soon. But this was awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it as always, Chandler. You have a good day.
All right. Thanks. We'll be back to talk a little bit more about the Astros right after this message from our friends at Foul Territory.
You know why you're enjoying this minute? Because we're happy, Kratz. We're happy because we're wearing Mack Weldon.
Yes, I'm 6'5", and nobody can give me tall clothing, but Mack Weldon allows me to have it. So I don't really have to care about how I look, and I still look good because I don't put a lot of time into what I do to pick out my clothes. Mack Weldon takes care of it for me.
Classic, always in style, made from the world's most comfortable performance materials. Summer gets sweaty, don't let unnecessary sweat spots emerge. Mack Weldon's Air Knit X fabric helps you out. Their lightest fabric is fused with nylon mesh for maximum airflow. Skip the midday wardrobe changes. The barely there feel also keeps you feeling more dry and fresh. Don't sweat the heat this summer. Feel as effortlessly cool as you look with Mack Weldon. Go to mackweldon.com and get 20% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code FOUL. That's MackWeldon.com, code FOUL.
As always, thanks to Sam for stopping in and giving us an update on the baby Astros before the All-Star break approaches and the first half break approaches for a lot of these guys in all the affiliates. So we really appreciate him, appreciate his accessibility and his availability and his ability to articulate very well and very concisely what these guys are working on. We'll spend the next 5 or 7 minutes talking about maybe some of the bigger things that came out of this weekend against the Guardians, just because we had Mitch Bannon on for the Blue Jays crossover in the last episode, and then obviously we had Sam for the first 20 minutes of this one. So we haven't really talked a ton about what happened on the field this weekend. I'm going to do this alone, so bear with me a little bit if I ramble. I don't have Tyler's comedic timing, don't have Tyler's ability to interrupt me and stop me from rambling. So bear with me, but I think the first thing that, look, I think the Astros, this was certainly a nice series win for them. Don't get me wrong. They did what they needed to do against a team that came in here. As we discussed, this was a Guardians team that was hurting. They don't have Jose Ramirez, who is perhaps, if not definitely, the best third baseman of this generation. They did not have Angel Martinez, who is their leading home run hitter. They did not have Chase DeLauder, who is going to battle with Kevin McGonigal to win American League Rookie of the Year this year. Those are their three best hitters. And the Astros pitching staff neutralized their lineup about as well as you can without their three best hitters. Obviously, in the middle game, Spencer Arrighetti did not have maybe the start he wanted, but I think if you look past I think if you look really deep down in Spencer Arrighetti's start on Saturday, there was more to be excited about maybe than the line would indicate. Look, he gave up 6 runs. I'm not here to try to, sell you on that being good. He gave up 3 homers. The 2 of the homers he gave up were just on mistake pitches, right? He got ambushed by Travis Bazzana on a first pitch, middle fastball of the game, and then he hung a slider that Bazzana hit out. The ball that Kyle Manzardo hit to the opposite field, that was not a Crawford box special, by the way. That would have been out in, I believe, 16 of 30 ballparks, according to Baseball Savant. I know it went into the Crawford boxes, but that ball was hit pretty hard, and that ball was hit, pretty far the opposite way by Manzardo. But that was a good pitch. If you go back and look, it was not in the zone. It was a fastball in the outer half, outside of the strike zone. That Kyle Manzardo is just a strong human being. He got to it, and sometimes you got to tip your cap, and that's what Spencer Arrighetti did after the game. So, but I think the underlying stuff that should be exciting or that should be reassuring, he didn't walk anybody, and he still struck out 8 guys. Got, I believe, upwards of 15 or 16 swings and misses. The stuff was playing. He did not walk guys, which that's been a problem for Spencer this year. He's been inefficient. He's been, walks have killed him at times, but he was able to curtail those, keep those under control. It was just, as he said after the game, he made 2 mistakes and he paid for them. And that's something that, it happens. But as we talked about, even when Spencer was on his AL pitcher of the month run in May, he was having a great month, don't get me wrong, but he had a .93 ERA with a 4.24 FIP. So you kind of understood that there was going to be some regression to the mean here. And I think that's what we're seeing from Spencer, who is, again, still pitching fine. I know the ERA in the past 4 starts has not been great. I believe it's around 6. That's not what you want. They need him to pitch better than that. They don't, but he was never going to have a sub 1.5 ERA all season. So I don't think Saturday's start is something that should cause a ton of concern, but it certainly is, it's a reminder that this is still a guy that is trying to find his way. It's a guy that's, not maybe to the ace level that Hunter Brown is. Now, there's very few pitchers in the sport that are like that. There's nothing that's not meant to be pejorative. That's not meant to be a bad thing for Spencer. But it's a guy that was always going to be due for some positive or some regression to a little bit of a mean. Speaking of positive regression, Tetsuya Imai struck out 11 guys out of absolutely nowhere on Friday against the Guardians. That was a very welcome sign for the Astros, who still don't really know what to expect every time Tetsuya Imai goes on the mound. I didn't expect him to strike out 11 guys and generate 20 swings and misses, just like I don't think anyone expected him to go out with a 9-run lead in Kansas City a week and a half ago and only get 2 outs. This is the Tetsuya Imai experience. You never know what you're going to get, and you just kind of sit there and wait. It personifies the term. You never know what you're going to see when you go to the ballpark, and that describes this Tatsuya Imai experience to a T. I think the one interesting thing about that start was if you looked at the Savant pitch classifications, it looked like, again, that he was primarily a two-pitch pitcher. Threw fastball, slider. I think he threw 47 pitches before the board said he threw a changeup, and he threw the changeup like right after he gave up the 3 runs in succession in the 4th inning, gave up a bomb to Rhys Hoskins, gave up a hit to Bazana, to Manzardo, but that's when he kind of started to mix in. But talking to him after the game and then talking to him again on Saturday a little bit, it sounds like the public pitch recognition data is just as confused by Tatsuya Imai as all of us are. He said this on Friday, and then I checked in with him on Saturday, and he confirmed it. He said, he according to him, he said he probably threw about 10 or 12 splitters on Friday night in his start that he looked up at the board and saw were being classified as sliders. Now, we've been over this with Imai, that he changes his grips a lot. He's got the 2-seam grip with his fastball that he doesn't really call a 2-seam, but it's classified as a 2-seam. He thinks it's still a 4-seam. Apparently, the public metrics think that his splitter grip can be classified as a slider. We all know that the slider is a different pitch. It moves differently, has a different movement profile than any right-handed pitcher slider in baseball. So that's got something to do with it. But I'm just going to stop trying to figure out what pitches he's throwing. I'm going to stop trying to, it's very hard to figure this guy out. But if he keeps striking out 11 guys through 6 innings of 3-run ball, I think the Astros will be fine. Him being an enigma, but he's going to start again, I would imagine, in Detroit this coming weekend in this 4-game series. So who knows what the Astros are going to get. But they'll take 11 strikeouts over 6 innings any day of the week. There was another strikeout on Friday that was a little more noticeable, something that I think a lot of people kind of gravitated towards, and it was Jose Altuve's strikeout in the 1st inning against who pitched on Tanner Bybee. Tanner Bybee pitched on Friday for the Guardians, but it was Jose Altuve's strikeout in the 1st inning. He waved over a fastball at his eyes, and then did something that you rarely see Jose Altuve do, and that is show an outward sign of frustration. He spiked his helmet so hard that you heard it crack. If you go back and watch it on the broadcast, if you go back and watch it on any of the highlights, you can hear his helmet crack when he spikes it. He threw his bat away and just kind of trudged to first base. This is something that I've been covering Jose Altuve for 8 years, and that's probably the most demonstratively mad I have ever seen him on the field in plain view of the cameras. Now, everyone will bring up that viral moment that he had a couple of years ago in Chicago against the White Sox when he was walking out to his position and just started like screaming out of nowhere. But that wasn't really supposed to be on camera, if you get what I'm saying. That was, they came back from break and they obviously caught it. And look, when you're a pro baseball player, everything's on camera and they have to realize that. But he did that between innings, kind of when he thought no one was looking. This was, he knew the cameras, everyone was still going to be on him right after his at bat, right? So the helmet spike kind of made you wonder, where is his psyche at? Where is kind of his mindset at? He has not had the season that I think he would hope to have. Joe Espada just came out and said it after the game. He said he's pissed. He said he is pissed off about how this season has gone for him, about, and I think Joe's exact quote was, he's pissed because he knows he's better than what he's showing right now. Altuve said after the game that, we asked him about his lack of minor league rehab games after his oblique, and he said, that's just an excuse. He said, I have to get better. I have to turn my season around. And to hear him talk in these kind of terms, it's not something you hear from Altuve a lot. But then, of course, 5 innings after that helmet spike, Altuve did the most Altuve thing in the world, right? First pitch from Matt Festa, the Guardians reliever, go ahead, 3-run home run. doubles in the 8th inning in a more impressive swing, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But it's one of these situations with Altuve that I don't think anyone ever really worries about him. Sure, he's 36 years old. Sure, you look at the age and you look at kind of the decline in production and the medium declines in production. You kind of wonder, man, is this it? Right? Are we seeing him on the back end of his career? And then he comes out and he does, what he's always been accustomed to. This is peak Jose Altuve, right? Just when you think you're at the point where it's like you have to start being concerned. You have to start asking questions. He gets 4 hits in his next 4 at-bats. He had the homer off of Matt Festa. And I think the thing that really impressed and excited team officials was what he did in that 8th inning on Friday against Daniel Espino, excuse me, came in. Altuve turned on 98.4 miles an hour, a fastball, and hit it to left center field. It was the 3rd hardest pitch Altuve has put in play all season. Joe Espada talked after the game about he got his foot down on time. He was on time for a fastball, and he connected with it. And I think that is what they are working with him on right now. You've seen the leg kick kind of decrease a little bit in the last couple of games. They're working on getting his foot down on time. They're working on him being on time more for fastballs. They're working on just his timing in general. And he's taken early batting practice on both Friday and Saturday. You can tell he is, not that he's ever not determined, but you can tell he is really working to get out of this funk, working to get out of whatever he's in. And I know the frustration is odd for him, and it's odd to see him be that frustrated, but just rest assured that I think he is the last person that this team worries about. They kind of just know inherently he's going to come through it. It may not look the way that it looked in 2017, 2019, 2021, when, he was hitting 300, when you saw kind of vintage Altuve. I think there's still I think it's still in there, right? But this is a guy that he's a career 301 hitter, and he's got a 235 batting average. He's just doing it a little bit differently now, and he's going to have to do it a little bit differently just with the age, with the way he's being pitched, with just the quality of pitching now, because the quality of pitching now is different than 5 years ago when Altuve was racking up 200 hit seasons. So baseball's a game of adjustments. It's a game of adapting, and Altuve is in the middle of that right now. And I think I think you're seeing it happen in real time. I think it's a different look. It's a different kind of outlook for him as someone you just kind of expect to roll out of bed and hit 300. That may not be the case anymore, but Altuve is still the heart and soul of this team. He's still a guy that this team cannot survive without. And they need him to get back to being a modicum of the Jose Altuve of old. And I think you kind of started to see some of that turn this weekend against the Guardians. And then, the final thing that came out of this week is that Yordan Alvarez hit another home run. He hit another home run on Sunday. It ended up being the difference maker in a 2-1 win against the Guardians. But then after the game, Alvarez, who leads the American League with 25 home runs, said that he will not participate in the home run derby next month in Philadelphia, which was a legitimate question whether he'd do it, because Alvarez has been interested in it in the past. He was invited to participate in 2022 when the All-Star game was at Dodger Stadium. He very much considered doing it in 2022, but then he injured his right hand about a week or so before the All-Star game, went on the IL, and obviously he was not going to do it then. He was also injured and missed the 2023 All-Star game that he was elected to. The 2024 game, he said at the 2024 All-Star game that he would probably do the Derby at some point in his career. But it is clear that it is not going to be this year. And, it was a very brief interview that we had with Alvarez after the game on Sunday. He did not say whether he had been invited to participate in the game, in the Derby. But he made it clear that he's not going to do it. I asked him if he had any interest in it, and he just shook his head and said no. We asked him, why that was, just given that he had said in the past that it was something that he was open to. It was something that interested him. We asked him, what made this year, the year you didn't want to do it. And he said in English, he said, "I'm still open, but not this year." So it won't be this year for Yordan Alvarez, which I understand it. I get it. It's a strictly a personal decision, but I think I would have liked to see him go out there and kill the ball at Citizens Bank Park. I think it would have been nice for him. It would have been nice for Yordan to get some national exposure and to kind of get his name and face out there. Not that it's not out there already, but it just, and we've talked about this, it just doesn't seem like Alvarez gets maybe the national recognition or the coverage that, some other hitters and sluggers and superstars of his ilk get. This could have been a way for him to get that, but he decided he doesn't want to do it. So again, totally his decision. I know that there's some fans that certainly appreciate him making this decision. But as long as we're talking about home runs, this is a reminder that the Daily Dingers promo from FanDuel is always a great sponsor of Foul Territory and Crush City Territory. That's right. We've got the Daily Dingers special on FanDuel as always. Guys, remember that the baseball season's in full swing, and FanDuel can give you a chance to make free daily picks as to who's going to hit a home run on FanDuel. So, obviously, Alvarez is the guy that you put in as the one you want to have that FanDuel Daily Dingers pick. But Christian Walker going to Toronto. Isaac Paredes is a guy that can hit in Toronto as well. Jeremy Pena at the top of the Astros order. Certainly a guy. He hit 2 homers in a game this weekend against the Guardians. He's starting to find his power stroke again. So I think he's certainly someone that you could look at as a guy to really look at as someone to help with this Daily Dingers promotion. So remember, it's another reason why FanDuel is the home of home runs. So if you're ready to play, head over to FanDuel.com/podcast to get started. That's FanDuel.com/podcast to opt in for Daily Dingers and to make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball.
No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
Well, I've rambled enough, so I appreciate you guys sticking with me during this mini solo pod. We appreciate Sam Niedorf, as always, for dropping in to get 20 minutes with us to talk about everything going on in the farm system with the Astros. But as always, you can follow me on X if you choose at Chandler_Rome. You can rate and review the podcast on Apple and Spotify. You can like the YouTube video as well and subscribe to the YouTube channel because that helps us out a ton. Tyler will thankfully be back tomorrow night to avoid me from rambling again and avoid me from bothering people to be co-hosts. We can get Tyler back in here. But until then, please, as always, give us a listen. We appreciate it as always, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.